Hey, good evening, everybody. We're meeting with Susan Blackman, and Susan is an art consultant in Chicago, and we've been speaking periodically about there being different art villages and that people can participate in the art world in a variety of ways. And my assumption is that, and we'll get back to this in a moment, but my assumption, Susan, is that there are artists that art consultants work with that do not have art galleries, and that they do okay solely working with art consultants. But before that, I like to ask everybody how they got involved in this art life. And I want to know where you went to high school.
Me?
Yep, you.
I went to Latin.
Oh, far out. So did some of my kids. And then did you go to college in the Midwest? Latin's a private school in Chicago. Then where did you go to college?
I went to University of Michigan, and then I got my graduate degree at Ohio State University.
And when did you realize you had a strong interest in art?
As soon as I graduated from getting my MBA. I had absolutely no desire to work for anybody except for myself. So I borrowed money from my parents, and off into the art world I went.
And what was your first endeavor?
I opened an art gallery. And
where was that?
It was out in the suburbs. It was out in Arlington Heights. I partnered with another gallery owner, and we opened up. It was more of a decorative gallery, but that's how I got my feet wet.
And what were other steps or transitions, if any, to becoming an art consultant?
Basically, I started calling on corporations to supplement the income from the gallery, and for the gallery actually. And then I decided, you know, the gallery sales were flat after 7 years, and I closed it and just went straight into consulting after that.
Are most of your clients corporate?
Most of them, yes.
Do you differentiate between art advisor and art consultant? Do those terms mean different things?
Not to me. I mean, basically, I don't own any artwork. I represent my client to the art world, and whatever their aesthetic is, I go find the artwork that fits it.
I believe that there's a guide for the Society of Art Consultants or something that says you're not allowed to own artwork that you're seeking to sell to your clients.
Exactly.
And you can own artwork for yourself.
Exactly.
You cannot acquire inventory.
Right. I have no inventory at all.
And
I have pieces on consignment, just so that when I go visit a client for the first time, I take a bag of work with me, paper pieces mostly, and just for the initial, the light got dark, just for the initial, introduction.
And how do you find your artists?
Well, after being in this for so long, they generally find me at this point. However, I've done a lot of calls, and I get portfolios daily. So I have
in what manner? Typically email?
Yes. I actually request only email now. I don't want anybody to call me. I don't want anybody to send me anything. No gifts, nothing, unless I request it.
Right. And how do you find your clients? Or are they finding you?
Both. But I started out by cold calling, straight cold calling. I call myself the cold calling queen, and that's how I do it. But now I get, that's how I started, and now I get referrals. I'll still need to cold call though. It's, the economy's tough.
Do you work with clients on a recurring basis sometimes, or an ongoing basis, either one?
Oh, sure. I've got a lot of healthcare clients, too, that I work with on an ongoing basis, and corporate clients, too. But a lot of times you go in there, they've just moved in, I'm the last one in. The plant lady comes in before the art lady, and I'm the last one in, and hopefully they've got money left. I do the artwork, and then they're done until they move again. That's a lot of what happens.
There's not that many situations where they grow or their business expands physically, and then they acquire more art. It's mostly.
Exactly. Then they'll call me again if they're expanding.
And how many artists do you think you work with in a given year?
Oh God, that's a tough one. A lot, a lot. I don't even know how many I work with.
Do you use artists on a recurring basis often, or are you looking for new people all the time? What's the relationship?
Yes and yes. I'm always looking for new artists, always. And but there's a lot of artists that I work with, again and again. So
it seems to me that recently you've been more sculpture oriented or taking on sculpture projects. Tell me about that.
Well, that sort of fell in my lap with the Altarpolitan show through the Chicago Loop Alliance. They called me in. It was a last-minute thing, and I managed to get 24 artists together, 17 artists, 24 pieces together in 6 weeks. And I think because, and a lot of those artists I hadn't worked with before, but maybe they'd heard of me, and when I put the call out, everybody responded. So it was a beautiful thing. So as a result of that, I'm doing some artwork, some sculptures at a school, and the one that I'm doing at a community garden, that's a total freebie. I'm just putting that together because we have so much land that I thought, what a great place to put a sculpture garden in for the summer, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've been by there a few times. It's a nice idea.
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I said I've been by there a few times, and I think it's a really nice idea.
I'm working on it. Hopefully by the end of the summer it'll all be full.
Yep. What's the price range that you work with?
Well, I'm probably the only art consultant in town that doesn't mind putting in a poster or putting in a $50,000 painting. It's what the client wants. It's what the budget, what's available. And if I want the job, then I've got to do whatever I can to make it work. So, of course, I'd rather do the fine artwork. But if all they've got is poster money available, then I'm happy to do that. And hopefully I can work them up into original work later.
Are you involved in educating the clients, you think?
Oh, God, yes. Yeah, that's why I always bring a bag of work with me. Because most people that I talk to have absolutely no idea what to do, what to put in. They have no idea how much artwork costs. They have no idea how much framing costs. And so I have to educate them.
And then is there ongoing education after the art's installed?
Yeah, because I want to, I'd like to move the poster people up to fine art. So they're on my mailing list and they're on my Facebook page. And I try to hit them a few times a year with fine artwork and see if I can get them to roll over.
Are you also preparing explanatory notebooks for, that sit on coffee tables in the waiting areas of these corporations?
When I'm allowed to.
Sometimes they don't want that.
Yeah, they do. Sometimes they don't really care.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. And how much of the art that gets installed has wall labels that identify the artist?
The fine artwork, I put wall labels on. The posters, I don't even go down there.
All right, okay. And are you working directly with galleries sometimes?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
You're working directly with unrepresented artists sometimes?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, well, let's focus on that for a moment. When you're working with an art gallery, what's the range of, so you're getting a percentage of, well, hold on. I'm correct, am I not? That art consultants tend to work in one of two ways. Either they're getting paid a fee by the gallery, by the client, and they're asking for a discount when they're purchasing the art from a gallery or the unrepresented artist, and they're passing that discount on to the client. That's one way, correct? And another way is that they're not getting a fee from the client, and that they're getting a discount, comparable discount from the gallery that they then keep for themselves.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So from a gallery, I'll get between 10 and 20%.
And it would be unethical for a corporate, any art consultant to do both of those simultaneously, right?
Absolutely. That's double dipping, and I don't do that.
Fair enough. No, but I mean, I know that, but I want to know that. I want them to know
right.
that.
And some consultants do that, and it's just not right.
All right. So tell me how these things. So I suppose. All right. Obviously, when you're working directly with the artist, you have a relationship with the artist. You get to know them. And when you're working with the gallery, tell me how that goes. You frequently don't meet the artist, right? Or you do?
Oh no, I don't meet the artist. I generally don't meet the artist, and I'll just talk with the gallery owner, and I'll bring my client in. The gallery owner gives the client the spiel, and we go from there. But yeah, no, I never meet the artist when I go to a gallery.
And is anybody getting a better deal under either one of those scenarios?
I get a better deal if I go directly to the artist.
Now, so tell me how that works.
Well, of all the contacts that I have, if I, go to an artist, there's a couple ways. Either the artist will set the retail,
yep,
and then I'll take, and then we'll discuss my discount, or they'll give me, okay, here's the price, you mark it up however much you want to. And, I try to be reasonable. I can't gouge my clients, they'll know that.
Are you sometimes involved in commissioning artwork?
Oh, sure.
How often is that? I mean, so you're not always buying existing art.
Right. It all depends. The economy's been so difficult lately that commissions are down. They have less money. They want to get in, get out. Let's do the job, let's be done, and move on. So that's how it works.
Your business must be fairly mercurial and with a lot of highs and lows and following the economy more than it is for even art galleries, because art galleries, people love art, they need it, they want it, they've got a Jones for it, but the corporate thing is much more dealing with business cycles. It's also, I imagine that even if a company is making a lot of money in a down cycle, they don't want to appear too profligate and spend too much money on art, right? And
absolutely, absolutely.
I remember when I had a gallery, Kraft laid off 1,000 people and then came to my gallery and bought $100,000 of art within a week after that. And I was really happy to have that happen, but I just found that really odd,
Yeah. They have a nice collection.
Yeah, they do. Cheesy. No, never mind. And all right, so let's talk about commissions. What does an artist have to give you a comfort level for a commission? I mean, what do they have to give you visually, or what's their responsibility?
Well, what they need to do is, first I take examples of what they already have done and bring that to the client. Okay. Then we decide, okay, it's going to go in this space. It needs to be 20 feet long, 10 feet high. So we need to create something like that. And then they work on maquettes, and then we go through this approval process. And when the client says, okay, we're ready to go, then they go off and paint or sculpt or whatever they need to do.
Right. And what do they get? They get some money up front. They get some money when they're a certain percentage away through the process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's usually a third, and a third kind of thing, or a half down and half when they deliver. They're all different. But, yeah, we make sure they have some money to start with, for sure.
Right. Are there contracts with the artist involved?
Oh yeah, for commissions for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to make sure they're on track, they're on time, stay on budget, all those things.
How much sculpture do you work with? A lot or a bit? Because I mean,
Lately more than I ever have, really, which is kind of fun. I haven't done that much.
Does some of the sculpture have, is it large scale?
Yeah, for the most part, I don't think I've done anything larger than 14 or 15 feet quite yet. Although I've done some freestanding atrium things, but they hang, well, I guess that counts. They hang from the ceiling, so that would be 2-story type
I
thing.
remember when I took care of the art for the McCormick West expansion, which was like a 2.3 million square foot building. And, you know, in the selection process, they asked me questions, but there was all these, you know, mumbling in the background. Don't do anything to don't get in the way of my traffic pattern. Don't get in the way of where people walk. Don't have stuff that it could, you know, that people have to, you know, that distract from the signage that we have to have. You know, so that there's various kinds of concerns. I asked them if we had to have a portrait of the mayor. And they said, no political images, nobody. I said, not even Abraham Lincoln. They said, no Abraham Lincoln. And they said, no winter scenes.
Winter scenes.
Winter scene, well, you know, ultimately there were photographs by Bob Fall that were these gorgeous, you know, snow on the steps near the Chicago River. And I submitted those and I said, can we use these or are these winter scenes? They said, of course we can use these. These are beautiful. You know, so that, you know, sometimes the parameters change.
Well, for healthcare, when I do healthcare, there's certain things that I never put in. I never put scary skies. I don't put empty trees. Obviously I don't put urns in. I don't put paths leading to nowhere. Empty benches, forget it. You know,
not too much red.
Exactly. So I mean, there's certain parameters for certain companies and healthcare.
Yeah, I'm sure. Somebody asked, do you suggest how the work is hung?
Oh, absolutely. I bring in my own installer, always.
So you get the height set right and you get something mounted so that it doesn't sit on just one picture hook so it doesn't go wingy-dingy after.
Absolutely not, because I'm responsible if it falls down, especially in healthcare. If it falls on a patient, I'm in trouble.
You think?
Yeah.
Sometimes you must get involved after the sale with the reappraising things for insurance or information purposes for the client, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And do the artists ever get involved in the hanging or the installation of the art?
Sure. If it's a painting, that's pretty easy. If it's a wall sculpture, then we need some help, and I always invite the artist in to spot it and look at it. And, but yeah, definitely. But a straight wall, you know, painting or whatever. I generally do 60 inches to center, and poof, it goes up.
So you're going a little bit high. Okay.
I do because most people are taller than 58 inches to center. and then if I'm in a seating area, I get the tallest person in the room to sit down and make sure that it's over his head.
Yeah, grease marks on the bottom of paintings from people's heads is not a good idea.
No.
No. And, you know, just as a reference, I think 60 inches for that kind of situation is right. I think the norm is closer to 55, 56. When I had a gallery, I tended to go for 53 because people would walk along the walls, you know, comfortably and be, you know, within 3 to 6 feet away from the art, as opposed to looking at it from across the room to a large extent. And my theory was, I'm just talking about the height of art in generality. My theory was that people's eyes are more comfortable if they're looking down a little bit, you know, and it seems to me people are more accustomed to that than looking straight ahead or up a little bit.
Well, you know, the other thing I have to worry about are carts. The mail carts in all corporations ruin the walls, and they'll hit the artwork, and so I have to make sure it's high enough so that, you know, if they're going to tag it, they're going to hit the bottom of it, not the center.
Yeah, that's a problem, and it's also a problem in hotels when you're doing, they're doing catered events, and they'll put the wine bar in front of the art, and the people who are serving and pouring the wine and the liquor are, leaning against the artwork.
Yeah, I have a situation at, I did the work at Deloitte, and every time I go there, they're on one of the floors, they have all the meeting rooms. It's just one huge meeting area, and they're constantly sticking the hot plates in front of my artwork, which drives me insane. And I've had to repair things, but nobody.
Well, that reminds me of a dreadful story. I lent a Sam Gilliam painting, $20 to $25,000, to Randall's Ribs, and they hung it over the buffet table for like 6-8 months, which I didn't know. Where they had the Vienna sausage. I can't understand why it's not pronounced Vienna, but it's Vienna sausage. And I sold the painting to a client, and I shipped it to him out of state. And he received the painting, and he called me up and said, "Paul, this painting stinks." It's gorgeous. He said, "I know it's gorgeous. It smells horrible." I said, "Oh my God, I know what happened." I said, "I'll pay to have it shipped back to me. I'll have it cleaned, and I'll send it back to you." And I had to do that. But some of the times, you have to deal with those kinds of things also. And
I had a Terence Lanoux painting cleaned. It had been sitting in Kirkland when they allowed smoking, and it had nicotine all over it. So when we pulled it off the wall, the wood behind it was a different color than the wood around it.
I see that happen a lot of times. Somebody raised the question about. Oh, hold on, Perry. Go ahead.
Oh God.
Hold on one second, Perry. Let me interrupt you. I'm sorry. Susan, if you look, I don't know if you're still looking at the smallest possible window. In the upper right-hand corner is a white postage stamp with 3 white guys on it. Okay, good. So you can see the people, you can see the other participants, and you can see Perry. Go ahead, Perry.
Is there a national or is there a listing for artists to find art consultants to work with?
Art in America. Go to the yearly guide of Art in America. And
oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good place. Another good place, I'm sharing my desktop for a moment. Another good place is what's it called? I can never remember the acronym. The APAA, the Association of Professional Art Advisors, I think. And
I have a problem with them, though.
Okay, cool. Tell me why.
They're unbelievably selective. So when I applied, because I sell posters, they wouldn't let me in. And so it's incredibly selective, and a lot of artists will miss out on so many art consultants that are out there because of that.
Do you think that the Art in America listing is as big as this is, or do you think, for an artist,
it should be bigger. It should be bigger. I mean, if you look on here, I think there might only be 2 art consultants from Chicago on this list. And I know there's a lot more of us.
I don't know if we can do it geographically. I don't think so. And I don't want to go look for your competitors at the moment anyway.
Yeah.
And the Art in America Gallery Guide is not online, is it? So you guys wanted to make, this is the APAA, and you can look at that. Art in America Gallery. I don't think they've ever put this puppy online. The directory, maybe they did.
Yeah, it's online.
Oh, they're going to go online. It says in September, but I don't know which year that is. Maybe it's already online. And maybe you can do that. The Art in America Gallery Guide lists all the galleries in the United States and all the artists that are with them, and you can see that there's well over 25,000 artists in the United States that have gallery representation. And there's no reason that if you want, you guys can't be one of those people. It's totally doable. We'll talk about that some more later. All right, well, Susan, that's really interesting. And those of you guys who are, want to work with art consultants, I think it's kind of important to not just say, I think it's terrible to send a blanket email to everybody and say, "Hi, I want to work with you, and tell me more about what you're looking for." I think you need to do your research. It's about relationships.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You want to establish that you have an interest in these people and that you comprehend to some extent the kind of work they do and what their affinities are. Susan, do you have a website?
I do.
What is that?
www.artadvisoryltd.com.
I bet I spelled it wrong. Ka-ching. All right, we'll try that one then. There we go. All right, so that you can look at Art Consultant's website and you can get a sense of the kind of work they do. And, you know, I think for galleries, if they've got somebody doing exactly what you're doing, they don't need you. But, you know, with an art advisory, they tend to not have, you know, permanent relationships with the artists they're working with, and there may be a different price point that you would bring to the table or something else, or maybe they're annoyed with that. I would say that if you have a sense that your art fits their aesthetic, it would be okay to share your art with those people. Those art advisors.
Even if it doesn't fit what I have put on my website, you should send me something anyway. Because
you think so? Okay.
Absolutely, because not all my clients are on there, and you know, you never know who's going to cross my path. So if I've got you in my resource file, and somebody wanted, you know, I'm just making this up, say somebody wanted clowns, you know, I don't have clowns on my website, but if I've got them in my resource file, then I'm going to use it.
So this is. Can you see the piece I pulled up, Susan?
Oh, wait, exit full screen mode. I'm back on the regular thing.
All right, do you see that? It's Jacob Hashimoto, I think. Do you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's him.
Okay. Jacob's a fabulous artist and a fabulous human being. This is his work. I hadn't seen Jacob in 11 years, and I walked into Rona Hoffman Gallery where he was having a show, and he looked up and he said, "Hi, Paul." And I said, "How did you remember that?" He said, "I met you 11 years ago. Of course I remember." What? I mean, you know, you talk about relationships. I am totally in love with him just because, well, I like his art, but I'm totally in love with him just because of that singular example. So, all right, so we're looking at Susan's website, and you can see that there is an array of things. You know, I think that art consultants are a fabulous resource for artists who make things that don't always hang on the wall flat and don't necessarily stand on the floor freestanding. If you look at these things, you know, you can see how this is a light installation that's very cool. And, you know, that's in what, different angle. And then you got these ships that are hanging like chandeliers. So, you know, this is a great resource for artists who work like that. Some freestanding. This is Bruce Beasley.
No. Okay, I'm having a senior moment.
I know. It's David Smith. No.
I can't remember his name. That was a long time ago.
Happens to me all the time.
It's embarrassing.
I don't consider it a senior moment. I think it's because I know so much, it just gets crowded in there. This is Emmett Kerrigan.
Yeah.
All right, so this is cool. There's a whole array of really cool art in here. All right, wait a minute. I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, I don't have to stop sharing, but okay, hold on. Participants. Somebody had a question. Perry, you're still unmuted. Did you have more questions, Perry?
Yeah, how long does it take to get paid? 30 days, 90 days?
Well, generally I pay when I get paid immediately. So I generally corporations are around 30 days. Healthcare is 45 to 60. And as soon as I get paid, I always pay my artist immediately.
That's a good practice. That's a really good question, Perry, to ask of art dealers or anybody you're working with who's going to sell your art for you. You know, that is probably the #1 most important question in that kind of situation. Thanks, Perry. I'm moving on to John. John, take it away.
Yeah, actually, I think you kind of covered it, but you know, just the discussion is, you know, earlier I was thinking of a question of how you compare and contrast entering a new market through reaching out to consultants, art consultants versus galleries.
You know, I think you need to do both, and there's you'll get, I think, more of a response, and I'm just guessing, from an art consultant rather than from a gallery. Because galleries usually have their group of artists that they work with, and a lot of times they've already planned their shows 2 years out. But an art consultant, we never know what's going to cross our path. So we want to have as much information and as many artists as we can in our back pocket when we go talk to a client. So you, as artists, you need to find all the art consultants in the United States and reach out to them individually, not in a mass mailing. Follow up on an email, you know, and say, do you mind if I call you? Because it does bother me when I get a random telephone call from, I don't know, whoever, and I'm an artist. How can I get in touch with you? Email is the way to go first. Go for an email. But don't be surprised if they don't answer you for a month or so. But in my situation, I will always get back to you. And I'll say, yes, this is great. You know, I need you now. I'll need you later. But I'm glad you got in touch with me. Or, you know, your stuff isn't up to snuff and I don't need you ever. But I'll be honest. I'll be real honest.
Well, a follow-up question is, how did you spend 4 years in Ann Arbor and end up down in Columbus?
I know, it was bad. I had to hide the sticker, the U of M sticker on my car when the football game happened. I had to park my car like so far away. It was, but you know, I'm not a Buckeye. I'm still University of Michigan alumni.
All right.
John's in Michigan. It's obvious. Thank you, John. So, Susan, how far away do you roam? How far away are your clients? Are they mostly in the Chicago, Northern Illinois area, or are they sometimes further away?
Oh, no. They're further away. Lately I have a bunch of clients in Florida for some reason. I've got a client in Canada currently. I've got a client in Belgium that I'm working with that happens to like Chicago artists. So, as an art consultant, I'm doing some other things that maybe some other people aren't doing. I've contacted, I'm in touch with a lot of the concierges in town. And when a client comes in, mostly from Europe, when they come in and they're interested in a private tour, I get the call. So, and then I pick them up in a limo and we go out. And so that's how I've gotten a couple of clients overseas. I try to do whatever I can to get clients.
All right. So now, when you're working with a client out of state, and you're still doing commissions with those people sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Does the artist ever go visit the site?
Yeah, sometimes, but a lot of times it's all internet and it's all blueprints, and we send files back and forth, and then poof, the artwork arrives and we install.
You must have scenarios where sometimes the art's the wrong size or not what you want. I'm not going to go there. Problems happen sometimes, and then you have to resolve them. Let's just leave it at that.
Or it's broken when it's in transit or something, and you just have to deal with it.
Yeah, but they're insured, and the artist gets paid, and then hopefully they get to make another commission or another piece, and they get paid for it. Where are your artists coming from? Are they coming from across the globe, across Illinois, across your block? What's where?
Mostly in the United States, I have to say. It's hard to deal with people overseas. So, we all speak the same language here, so it's a lot easier to deal with folks in the United States.
Shipping's much easier.
Yeah,
and shipping's much easier in the lower 48 than it is bringing stuff in, of size from a greater distance. I would also suspect that a lot of art that is used in art or placed by art consultants is larger than art that gets sold by galleries.
You mean size-wise?
Say that again?
You mean larger in size?
Yes.
That's hard to say. I'm not so sure about that. Every client is so different that it's hard to. I'm sorry, but it's hard to make generalities.
Okay.
At least for me.
Okay. Who else had a question? John, thanks. I'm going to Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, I was wondering if you could share some thoughts on limited edition prints. I've had some experience with those before, and I've had some good experiences with them. And I've also shared, after I was asked with gallery owners about my work with limited edition prints, and they treat them like poison. It's like, if you're into those, then we don't want you. So I was wondering if you
Okay, there's limited edition prints, and then there's G-Clays. G-Clays in my book is it's printing money. You know, it's you know, you have to keep in G-Clay. You got to keep them on the lower end of pricing. If you're doing a silk screen, if you're doing an etching or a lithograph, and you're actually doing it yourself, that's a whole different ballpark. But in G-Clay, I can understand why a gallery would poo-poo that.
I have a whole lot of difficulty with G-Clays. I think they're posters. I think that they are reproductions. I think the definition of an original work of art is something an artist makes. Now,
you have to have your hand on it.
But there is a difference, because you can use the exact same printing mechanism to create an original work of art. If you do something solely on your computer and then you want the finest quality print that you can make of that thing, you know, you're going to use the G-Clay process. But I don't think at that point, I wouldn't call it a G-Clay. I would call it, you know, a laser print or something else. And a G-Clay, you know, it might be printed on the exact same piece of equipment, but, you know, one I think is tainted and one I think is lauded. So I don't know if that answers your question, Mark, but is that what you were after, or do you want something else to say?
It does, yeah. It's more of an attitude about the thought process behind that. And it's not that I would go to a gallery and try to sell prints, G-Clay prints, through the gallery. It's more of, if you're involved in that, in your art business, then they're just not interested in dealing with you. And I just...
Well, you know what? Let me say this something. There's a lot of ways that artists can make money. You can make money under your name, Mark, or you can go change your name and then start pumping out some G-Clays or some lithographs or whatever. What is her name? Melanie. Oh, now I'm totally forgetting her name.
Where, in Chicago, who's taking this course?
No. It's an artist out of New York. Melanie Stickney Gibson? Melinda Stickney Gibson. You know her?
From the Bay Area. I know her. Melinda Stickney Gibson, yes.
Right. Many years ago, she was doing pieces under a nom de plume and Echo. And they were really beautiful landscapes, which is completely different from what she does as under Melinda Stickney Gibson. And I used to buy them. They were lower end, and I could sell them 1,000,000 times. And that's how she probably paid the rent. And but then, you know, her real name she took off, and she doesn't do that. She's not Ann Eccles anymore. She's Melinda Stickney Gibson. So there's a lot of ways to do that if you really want to get into the print business. And then you can also go to Landfall Press or other master print makers and have them help you make your work.
That's a good idea. You know, 30 years ago, I had a friend who wanted to publish an edition of Salvador Dali prints. And he went and met with Salvador Dali, and they negotiated the deal. And then Dali handed him a watercolor and 300 signed pieces of paper. And my friend who wanted to publish this stuff said, no, you have to come make the lithograph and you have to work on it. And Dali said, oh, you Americans and your scruples. You know, so he backed out of the deal. And I consider, I think Dali made some decent work in the very early parts of his career and then became a total hack. And I think it's a parallel
There's a bunch of people in jail because of that now.
Oh, there certainly are. And and I think G-Clays are damn close to that same kind of hackness. I don't know if that's a word. So, Mark, are we done? Do you have more questions?
No, I think that helps. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Then there's a bunch of you guys who have your hands up, but I think you don't want to ask anything, so I'm going to go to Agnieszka. Go ahead.
Do you ever work with interior designers? Is this something that a lot of art advisors do, especially in Chicago?
Oh, sure. I definitely work with interior designers. I'm the expert. I'm hoping that the interior designer is the expert on buying that couch. So I will try to connect with them, and that's how I get most of my residential work is through interior designers. I don't like, you know, residential work is more difficult than working with corporations in my book. It's a lot of hand holding. So I'd rather go through an interior designer.
You can't really charge a different amount, can you, when you have to work with the retail client, the residential? Or do you charge them a higher fee? You know, my wife is in a service industry, and she calls it a PETA factor. You know, so they add a PETA factor to the cost of what they're doing. PETA stands for pain in the ass.
Right. Well, you know, I do have to say that some clients that are a pain in the ass, I do mark up higher. I do have to say that, because the more I have to hold their hands, the more time it is, and, you know, my little commission just goes down the tube. You know, with interior designers, a lot of times I'll sell directly to them, and then they do whatever they want to. They mark it up, or they don't mark it up because they're working on a fee or whatever they want to do. A lot of times I don't sell directly to the client when I'm working with an interior designer.
Okay. Anushka, is that it? Do you have more, or are you done there?
That's it. You asked my other question earlier.
Why were you asking that question about interior designers, just out of curiosity?
Because I worked in San Francisco for a company who did decorative painting, and I was around interior designers, but I'm also a painter, and I'm trying to get into people's houses, people who can afford to buy art. So I was wondering if the interior designers do it themselves or they go through advisors.
So, you know, some of them do. That would definitely, you know, there's so many people you can reach out to. I would reach out to the art consultants first, and once you're done with that list, then reach out to the interior designer. But, well, you know, we're trying to reach the interior designers too. So that would be, you know, not my first, that would not be my first target as an artist.
I would also imagine that they would prefer to work with an advisor because it's, you know, one job off their hands too. This is all we do, and interior designers can concentrate on something else.
A lot of them like to work with us, and some of them don't want to have anything to do with us because they want to pocket the money.
Okay.
And then you've also got the half-breeds who call themselves interior architects.
Right.
You know, and they probably want to handle more of the art and have a whole statement about how they're composing the entire room and take control of that.
Well, Gary Lee is one of them. I can't get into him. He wants to have his hand on everything.
He does, and Gary has really nice taste.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'd like to be somebody that could help him, but he's not interested.
I know. I mean, I worked with Gary when I had a gallery, and sometimes when he's interested, he's real interested, and a lot of times he just wants to be left alone.
Right, right.
Alan, your turn.
So my paintings aren't really, well, most of my paintings are very figurative and somewhat erotic. So obviously those wouldn't have corporate appeal. But I've
never put a nude in a corporation.
So I've been painting these landscape paintings in Hawaii, selling them there, but that gallery went out of business. So I'm trying to rethink what subject matter I should paint to kind of try to replace that income or that market. Is it landscapes or abstracts? Which area do you find is better for subject matter, I guess?
I, for some reason, tend to do more abstracts than landscapes. So I would, but you know, you need to paint where your heart is, though. You know, don't. I'm not so sure that. I'm not so sure that, you know, if your heart's not into the abstracts, then don't do them.
Yeah.
You know, do what you feel comfortable doing. But I'll tell you this: I have a lot of trouble putting a palm tree in any place in Illinois.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, they got them down on Oak Street Beach, and then they take them out for the winter. It's pretty weird. Anne, you typed me a question, but I'm going to let you ask it. Go ahead, Anne. Anne, are you here? Oh, I think we had a problem hearing. Go ahead. All right, I think we had a problem earlier, Anne, and then she dialed in, so I'm muting her again. Anne asked if, Susan, you consult for movies and or television.
No, I haven't tried that at all.
You know, I think that's pretty hard. Oh, she'd have to type me the answer. I don't know if
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I think we're going to go with never mind. Sarah Jo, go ahead.
My question is about when artists are approaching you, what is the perfect, what would you like to see? How many images, how much information about someone's background, that sort of thing. What to you is a very nice little package of introduction and images?
Send me maybe 5 images, 5 of your best images. A short, quick note, and maybe your resume. Although I do have to say that I will look at your images before I'll look at your resume. If your images are spot on, then I don't really care what your education is, or where you've been published or anything like that.
Will you look at links also? I guess.
Yeah, links are good too. Send me your website. You must have a website. You must have a website. And on your website, I have to say this, because a lot of artists protect their pieces so you can't right-click and copy. Bad. Take that all off, because as an art consultant, I'll go back to my resource file, and if I can't right-click and copy and send it to a client, you're out of here. I don't even want to deal with you. So make sure that your website is accessible to copying. I don't know if that feels weird to a lot of people, like they're going to be, their images will be stolen or whatever, but put a watermark in the middle of it or on the side or something if you feel like, you're concerned about that. But definitely make it accessible so that I can right-click and copy and send it off to a client.
Yeah, I agree. When I write this art letter that I send out to 10,000 people, and I put images and words in there. And my notion is that anybody who wants to use it can use it. But there was a person who took another class and found a Chinese website that had their artwork on it, and they were trying to sell that artwork. And if they did sell it, they would hire some Chinese artist to reproduce the painting.
Yeah, art by the pound. That's what I call it.
Yeah, and I assume my notion is that it's better to have, somebody like Susan be able to sell your work for you because they can copy it, than it is to protect it from showing up in China where you weren't going to sell it likely anyway.
Right.
We're getting towards the end of this. Lynn, take it away.
I just had a quick question about scale. I've been working really small, like 10 inches by 10 inches, and really, big-ish for me, like 4 by 6 feet. I mean, I know big corporations put huge Frank Stellas in their lobby, but is there a size that works better?
Well, if you're going to work small, work in a series so that I can buy a series from you. Because I can't this doesn't take that, I can't put this little piece on the wall by itself. I need a series to go down a hallway, in a lunchroom or whatever. I need a series. Or I need a 4 by 6 foot painting. Well, the ideal size, as crazy as it sounds, is 30 by 40. That's an easy size for me. Easy size.
There's a lot of situations then where art goes in hallways, and anything bigger than 30 by 40 isn't going to work in the hallway, and things as small as 12 by 18 or even 8 by 10 maybe in a series can work there, and people will look at those as they go by it. It's a more intimate space You need smaller scale, more intimate art.
Right, and don't have it stick out of the wall too far. You know, if you're painting, make your canvases shallow so that I can put a nice big frame on it. If you make them too large, it's really hard to stick a frame on it. Because then, I mean, down a hallway, people bump into it, it falls off, you know, da-da-da-da.
I think this has been really informative. I'm not sure. Thank you, Lynn. All right, Anna, I threatened you. Here I come. All right, Anna, it's your turn.
Hey, Susan, thanks for speaking with us this evening. When you are working with artists that are not in the Chicago area, what is your process as far as selecting work and prior to delivery? Are you comfortable working solely with digital images, or do you need to see samples of the work for your client? And if so, what kind of scale do you need for that?
I have no problem with working online. I'm happy to work online. The client may need a sample. And so if you've got a large, you know, 4x6 piece or whatever, you can send me a little maquette or something, just so that they can. It's hard for clients to see texture and color, because everybody's screen is different. I can see it, I understand it, but a lot of times the clients are clueless. And so you need to give them an example of something, even if it's on paper, you know, just something for them to look at.
So a small scale would be like what size, like a 12 by 12 or 8 by 10 or something larger? What would?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
As far as a small piece, for an example, what size would work for that?
12 by 12 is fine. You know, something that's easy for you to mail, that won't be expensive, you know, for you, just so that they can see a sample. I'm gonna have to do that with my client in Canada. He's having trouble seeing what I'm sending him.
Happens. Hey, you guys, that was a really good question, Anna. Thank you. Those of you who have your hands up and do not have a question, please lower them, because I see an awful lot of hands. Mia, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, fine.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Susan. This is really helpful. So in terms of the bag that you carry with you, you said the paper, so I think that, you know, she asked the question, what size? So is that mostly what you bring are samples, like real samples of people's work that maybe not the actual size, but just a picture of it? Is that what you mean, that you carry with you to your clients to show
Yeah,
them?
a lot of times, I mean, they're paintings on paper, or you know, lithographs. Well, I don't really actually do that much limited editions anymore, but back in the 80s I used to. But I do a lot of paintings on paper now. And
great. So the actual painting on paper you bring with you? The actual painting.
And I'll sell right out of my bag. So, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy to take consignments. You know, I just won't necessarily. You won't be the one I say, okay, I represent you, because I won't represent you. I've got maybe 30 different artists in my bag, and whatever my client wants is what they're going to get.
Great. And how about photographs? How about photography? Do you sell much of that, or is
I
that
sell
not?
a ton of that, especially lately too.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
Another good question. Mia, thank you. Hold on. I know Andrea's going to have a good question, but I want to check on these people who have their hands up. And Trudy, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I wondered about a little bit more about consultants, or your relationship with galleries, and whether you approach the gallery, and whether the if you're represented by a gallery, what is the situation with approaching a consultant or to show your work?
If you have a contract with a gallery, then I would say you can't really approach me. That wouldn't be very cool. But if you don't have one and they haven't given you a show in a long time, absolutely get in touch with me.
Would it be, my thought about that, because it seems like an ethical problem, but if I were to approach you, for example, and you were to agree to show my work, then I would want to put you in touch with my gallery. Would that be something that would be possible?
Oh yeah, then I would go through the gallery and I would not go through you. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
No problem there.
No, I think that's a good idea, Trudy. And I think if you have an art gallery, the proper thing would be to ask them how they feel about it. And if you're on the West Coast and they, and you say, I've been speaking to an art consultant in the Midwest. Is it cool if I send them some images? Do you want me to, and if they're interested, do you want me to have them get in touch with you, or should I just take care of it? Some galleries would rather have you do all the work and let it look the other way, and some galleries would want to be involved and shepherd it. So that, if you value the relationship with the gallery, I think you need to nurture it.
Yeah.
Across the board. If you value the relationship with anybody, I think you need to nurture it.
Yeah, if you're in a gallery and you're lucky enough to be represented, don't burn your bridges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unless you want to get out of the relationship, and then that's a good excuse.
No. Right. Do you work with particular galleries then constantly? Do they contact you?
Galleries, oh yeah, I'm on everybody's list. I get invitations to all the shows, but I again represent my client to the art world. So I don't frequent one gallery.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to all of them. Okay. And when I go on vacation, it's a busman's holiday. I'm at every gallery in whatever city I'm in.
All right, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, art consultants may be valuable people for artists to query about galleries in other cities. I guess you can't really do that unless you have a relationship with the art consultant. But it's, art consultants have really good eyes. And, I always thought that the people who sold advertising space, who went gallery to gallery for major art magazines, should know what's going on all over the country. But art consultants might know better than dealers who tend to sit behind their desk. That's interesting. Thank you, Trudy.
Thank you.
Hey, Mia, your hand's still up. Did you want to ask something more?
No, sorry. Forgot to
Okay, no worries. John, you too. Your hand's still up. Did you want to ask something else?
I just have another question, and it has to do with corporate collections. Do you think there's a movement against corporations collecting more art? I know that Masco Corporation and Richard Manoogian came under a lot of pressure several years ago, and he ended up selling all the corporate collection because the shareholders and the board of directors felt that collecting art was not a good idea for a corporation in these tough times. Do you think that it's moving in that direction, or do you think that was just maybe a unique thing for one corporation?
Well, public corporations are definitely different than private corporations. There's no doubt about that. And the public corporations have to answer to their shareholders. So if they're out there, like Kraft, letting off people and then spending money on artwork, that is just not cool. So, but a private corporation, they can do whatever they want. The economy is difficult. And so even private corporations don't, a lot of times don't want to look like they're spending loads of money on extraneous things, So I don't know if there's a movement in that direction, or everybody's more careful. Even private collectors that have tons of money, they're being more careful too.
I can certainly think of a number of corporations that have acquired lots of art and then had financial difficulties and ended up with an art collection worth more than the company.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happened. Refco is the most recent example, REFCO, that I can think of. But there's certainly others. All right, thank you, John. And I think we're going to take one more question from Andrea and call it a night. Go ahead, Andrea.
Thanks. It's a quick question. I'm wondering if you work with clients who are interested in new media work, video installation, video projections, video, and also sound installation.
Not really. I've tried to sell it, but it's unbelievably difficult. There's a lot of other things that go into it other than just putting a piece on the wall. We've got to hire you know, an electrician. We've got to then hire a painter or a carpenter. You know, we have to, the sound ones are virtually impossible for me to sell because it bothers you know, quote unquote, bothers everyone. You know, in a company that won't even allow, you know, radios on people's desks. You know, it's difficult. The video one, I've tried and I have not been successful. It's very difficult for me. I don't know if it's just me or I've had trouble doing that. I've tried, but I've had trouble.
You know, there's another thing with that, because I placed new media art in the McCormick Place West when I did that one job. And maintenance, I think, is also an issue. And computers too often need to be rebooted. You know, we had to create a situation where if something went wrong, you could reboot it remotely and or it rebooted itself. Some of those things can get really challenging. And sometimes I've seen in corporations where they have the new media art and they just turn it off. You know, and you're looking at a blank plasma screen or the projection isn't showing because they just go, oh, it's not worth it. You know, I think it's much more successful dealing with private collectors for that stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
supposing that the technology is going to get reliable enough at some point that that won't be as big an issue.
You know, the other thing is a lot of corporations have a lot of flat screens all over their offices. So they don't want another flat screen. That I dealt with that at Deloitte. In every single, there's 2 flat screens in every single lunchroom. They have 19 floors, 20 floors now. And then in the reception area, there's a flat screen. In the conference rooms, there's flat screens. So they don't want to deal with that anymore.
Andrea, it wouldn't surprise me that there are art advisors / consultants who do a lot with new media and have a reputation for that. And maybe by going through, you know, the Art in America guide and the APAA guide and other ones that you can find, you can identify people who have that interest. It wouldn't surprise me at all that there's some consultants and some corporations that would want that a lot. You know, my notion is that if a lot of people don't want something, there is someone else who does want it.
I totally agree. Yeah, just because I don't do it doesn't mean there's other people who, you know, other people that do it. So
I think what Susan's describing is probably the norm, but that doesn't mean that, you know, you should not pursue it. Okay, I don't think we are going to take any more questions. I'm going to go through here real quickly. Is anybody else? I don't see any hands up. All right, Susan, I think this has been wonderfully informative. I really appreciate all the honesty and directness and tactics and information most that you've shared. This has been really wonderful. I have unmuted everybody.
I expect a portfolio from each one of you in my email pretty soon, huh?
And your email's on your website?
It is.
And it's artadvisorylimited.com?
Susan at artadvisoryltd.com. So how many people are out there? 25 of you? So I should get 25 emails in the next week.
Beautiful, gang. There's a challenge. It does prove that these people that we talk to are receptive, that they care about you, that they're looking for art, and that you guys are all in the same art world pursuing the same objective, to take care of you. All right, everybody, thank you very much. Say thank you to Susan, and, oh, time out. Yeah, but I want to say, let's go on. The Chicago, I've updated the website with more webinars and local meetings. This Wednesday, we're going to Louise Bourgeois' studio, so that those of you who are in Chicago and participating in the Chicago Supplement, we have an event this Wednesday, after tomorrow. And that'll be at 2 o'clock at her studio, and I will send out information to all of you about that tomorrow. Susan, thank you so very, very much. Everybody, thank Susan together. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Susan. My pleasure.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Go get 'em.
Go get 'em is right. Good night, all.
Good night.